From our Washington, D.C. studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Our top story for today. A man in Miami Beach fired 17 shots at two people in a vehicle who he thought were Palestinian. Police arrested 27-year-old Mordecai Brafman, charging him with attempted murder. The Miami Herald reports that the victims were visitors from Israel, though their nationality remains unclear. Surveillance footage shows him making a U-turn, stopping in the front of the victim's car and opening fire with a semi-automatic handgun. Both victims survived. One suffered a shoulder wound and the other was grazed on the arm. The victims blamed the attack on anti-Semitism and tweeted out, "Death to the Arabs," highlighting how deeply rooted anti-Palestinian hate fuels violence. Brafman reportedly told police he saw two Palestinians and shot them. Investigators have not confirmed if it was a hate crime, but CARE Florida is urging federal hate crime charges. Brafman is in custody at Miami-Dade Corrections. The Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, is preparing to lay off as many as 15,000 employees amid tax season. The layoffs are part of the broader effort by President Donald Trump and billionaire and presidential assistant Elon Musk to shrink the federal workforce. Sources told ABC News the job cuts could be implemented this week, though the full impact remains unclear. Affected employees reportedly do not work directly on tax processing, but their roles are closely tied to the agency's core operations. One veteran who was fired just 2 years before retirement told ABC he felt betrayed by the decision. The federal job cuts have sparked oppositions from Democrats, labor unions, and advocacy groups. U.S. media says more than 60 challenges to the administration's actions are pending. Protesters gathered outside Tesla showrooms across the U.S. opposing Elon Musk's tie to President Donald Trump and his push to slash government spending. Demonstrations have taken place in multiple cities, including New York, Seattle, and Los Angeles. Some protesters carried signs comparing the Trump administration to Nazis. Musk leads Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which has been rapidly firing federal workers and dismantling agencies. Critics call the actions illegal. Tesla investors worry Musk's political stances could hurt sales. Liberal states like California want strong Tesla markets are key concerns. Meanwhile, Trump's Republican base remains skeptical of electric vehicles. Tesla's sales dropped in 2024, marking its first ever annual decline. Some link the fall to Musk's support for far-right politics, including Germany's alternative für Deutschland party. Tesla's German sales fell 60% in January. In the UK, political leaders are pushing for tariffs on Tesla cars in response to the US steel levies. Musk's fortune is tied to Tesla, SpaceX, and other ventures. He has also used Tesla's share to fund Trump's campaign. The White House's ban on leading American news agency, or AP, continues with no sign of reversal. The dispute stems from AP's refusal to adopt the Trump administration's preferred term, Gulf of America, instead of the widely recognized Gulf of Mexico. Over the weekend, 2 AP journalists were barred from Air Force One. The administration claims AP has no special right to access events with limited space. Critics argue this move violates press freedom protected by the First Amendment. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budowich accused AP of a commitment to misinformation, a claim dismissed as absurd by journalists. AP insists the ban undermines democracy and the media's role in holding power accountable. Critics argue Trump's decision is not about media fairness, but retaliation against AP for refusing to comply with his preferred terminology. The controversy highlights escalating tensions between Trump and the press, raising concerns about government overreach. Bringing more news stories after the break. Stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. A far-right group in the U.S. is compiling a list of Free-Palestine activists for deportation, claiming they support terrorism. Bitar US, linked to early Zionist leader Zev Jabotinsky, announced it had shared a list of hundreds of what it terms are terror supporters with the Trump administration. This follows an executive order signed by President Donald Trump in January, directing authorities to remove resident aliens who engage in, quote, pro-Hamas activities. The order also calls for cracking down on political activism in universities and investigating what it calls anti-Jewish racism in leftist institutions. The group targets a vigil in New York marking the anniversary of Israel's murder of 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her family in Gaza. Bitar dismissed the event as a jihad rally and urged its supporters to attend and, quote, assist Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, in deportation efforts. At the vigil, Bitar members heckled attendees, shouting, "ICE, ICE, ICE," and "show us your faces so we can get you deported." Later, the group claimed to have used facial recognition to identify attendees and reported them to Homeland Security. Free speech advocates and human rights groups warn Trump's orders could lead to widespread suppression of political dissent. They argue conflating Free Palestine activism with anti-Semitism is an attempt to silence voices calling for human rights. Trump's policy aligns with Project Esther, a conservative strategy to suppress criticism of Israel through deportation. His orders direct universities and even K-12 schools to monitor and report students and faculty suspected of supporting Palestinian rights. Bitar's campaign to target activists began even before Trump's recent executive orders. Israel's destruction of Gaza's infrastructure has led to a severe garbage crisis. It has left sanitation systems unable to function, creating hazardous living conditions for the city's residents. Uncollected waste piles up on streets and residential areas due to the collapse of municipal services. Gaza's municipality spokesperson Hosni Mehna warned the city is facing a health and environmental disaster as it struggles to transport waste to the main landfill in Johor al-Dik. He said Israeli forces reportedly destroyed 80% of the city's fleet of waste collection trucks, leaving authorities unable to clear the streets. Israel has blocked municipal workers from accessing the landfill, further increasing waste levels. Large dump sites in central Gaza are becoming breeding grounds for disease outbreaks, including cholera and typhoid. The municipality has called on international organizations to pressure Israel to allow the entry of new waste collection vehicles and grant workers access to the landfill. Saudi Arabia will host a crucial 5-nation Arab meeting on Thursday to discuss rebuilding Gaza without displacing Palestinians. It will include Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, and the UAE, according to the Arab League. Egypt said earlier this month it will also host an emergency Arab summit on February 27th, following a controversial proposal by President Donald Trump for the U.S. to take over Gaza and expel all Palestinians. It suggests turning Gaza into a luxury destination, an idea that has been widely rejected. Israel's genocide in Gaza was halted on January 19th after a truce came into effect. This is after Israel killed over 48,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants last November for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its war on the enclave. An Israeli military unit forced an 80-year-old man, Palestinian man, to act as a human shield in Gaza before he and his wife were shot dead. An investigation by Israeli outlet, The Hottest Place in Hell, found that soldiers tied an explosive cord around the elderly man's neck, forcing him to scout buildings. The soldiers threatened to blow his head off if he disobeyed orders. For 8 hours, he was forced to walk ahead of Israeli troops, risking his life. His wife was detained in their home. Eventually, the couple were ordered to flee. But as they moved through Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood, another Israeli battalion killed them on the spot. Israeli soldiers later admitted they had not informed nearby units that civilians would be passing. Reports show Israeli forces have repeatedly used Palestinians as human shields. In August, the Israeli daily Haaretz published an expose revealing Israeli troops had kidnapped Palestinian civilians. They were then forced to dress in military uniform, cameras were attached to their bodies, and they were then sent into underground tunnels as well as buildings to shield Israeli troops. The Israeli army has not yet responded to the latest allegations. International law forbids the use of human shields. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has pledged to defeat terrorist groups Al-Shabaab and ISIS. Speaking at the opening of Hospital Hodan in the capital Mogadishu, he stressed the need to improve medical care for injured soldiers. Mahmoud praised a recent U.S. airstrike in Puntland, reaffirming strong U.S.-Somalia counter-terrorism ties. The U.S. military confirmed an airstrike last week killed 2 alleged ISIS terrorists, marking the third such attack in 2 months. Somali security forces have also been intensifying operations, liberating key areas. More than 30 ISIS fighters were killed in recent strikes in the Al-Mishkad Mountains. The Somali government and AU forces have been battling with Al-Shabaab since 2007. The group has escalated attacks since Mahmoud declared an all-out war against them. That's all from our Washington, D.C. studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. Please donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.